Yo, what's going on, everybody? Alex with you here again. It's Friday, and hopefully everybody's been having a good week. In today's video, I wanted to touch base and talk a little bit about felt. Felt is something I've covered routinely in a lot of my chess videos. However, this video is going to be more or less like a summary. I wanted to bring together most of the chess pieces that I have with different types of felt and talk a little bit about what makes each type of felt different. How does it feel practically? When is it useful to have one felt versus another? So hopefully you'll find this video helpful and informative. And if you do, please hit that like button. By the way, I've been posting some shorts recently, so if you haven't had a chance to check out some of my shorts, go to the short section of my channel and be sure to watch those videos. Some of those videos, even though they're like a minute long, they've taken me like hours to do, so be sure to check them out and hit that like. That always helps. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in my camera a little bit closer so we can take a look at what I'm presenting to you today. This video is not going to be all inclusive because I am well aware there's probably other felt out there. But from all the different chess sets that I've acquired and tried out and tested, hopefully I'll talk a little bit about felt and what makes it different, what makes it worthwhile considering felt, because I know a lot of people out there, if they're purchasing, let's say, a plastic chess set, they may not even think about felt. Oh, they look at the actual chess piece, but they don't consider felt. So I'll kind of give you guys my pointers and tips, so be sure to stick around, okay? Okay, so this helter-skelter arrangement of pieces here all over, just kind of brought a bunch of my pieces together and wanted to show you guys. Hopefully things are going to be in focus. Most of the plastic and wooden chess pieces will have some kind of felt on the underside. The purposes of felt are kind of a twofold. For one, having felt on the underside of a piece, let's say this one here. One is when you're playing a chess game, you have some kind of a cushion that is present between. During the impact, this cushion is felt when you're placing a chess piece on a hard surface. Everybody kind of knows that. But what it is that when we take that information into account, as you will see here shortly, when I show you different types of felt, you'll see how sometimes that requirement isn't necessarily met. But a normal standard type of felt that you see right over here, this sort of a green felt about 1 millimeter thick or so, is present on most reasonably priced wooden chess sets. It's also present on some of the plastic chess sets. Not all, but some. This is what I would call sort of the standard. This is what I would prefer to see on all chess sets, including all plastic chess sets. This would probably be the standard, and I'd be fairly satisfied if all chess sets would have this type of felt. Honestly, it's a great sort of a middle ground as far as cushion. You get a nice cushion. And the second reason for having felt in general is that felt allows you to slide a chess piece relatively smoothly on a hard, smooth surface like in this case, this is kind of a plastic DGT board, but on a wooden surface too. So you get a nice slide, because sometimes when we play games, we don't necessarily want to pick them up every time and put them down. We want to be able to slide them, and you get a really nice feel when you have a wooden chessboard and a nice felted piece. Now, having said that, when you have a roll-up board, sometimes it doesn't matter, like the roll-up boards, for example, silicone, vinyl, or mousepad. In some situations, the board itself isn't smooth enough for you to be able to slide a piece anyways. So in those situations, it may not matter as much. It's still a good idea to have a felted piece. However, on a roll-up board, most of the time what you do with the chess piece is you pick it up and you put it down instead of just sliding it. But when I've played many of my games, I actually prefer to slide a piece instead of picking it up and putting it down. But everybody has their preference, so to speak. So this here, like I said, this sort of a medium green color, about 1 millimeter maybe in thickness, maybe slightly more, is sort of the standard, okay? Now, there are more expensive wooden chess sets like this 1852 Paulsen chess set from House of Staunton that will have a slightly like darker shade. It's almost like a darker blue tint to the to the felt here present. It is a little bit thicker and the material is not as densely packed. I think they're using slightly different material in these. Although it looks quite similar in practice on a heavier chess piece like this, because this chess piece is a lot heavier than this one, you do feel a little bit, I mean, you have to kind of really be very picky, but when you're placing down this piece here, it does feel like there's a little bit more softness to it. So, like I said, most of the time, if you had to pick between one and the other, it's not really going to make that much of a difference, but sometimes I am pleasantly surprised if a chess set comes with this sort of a darker green. But, like I said, most of the time you see this darker green in chess sets that are usually priced above $300, and it really just depends on where you get them. This one here and the Burnt Dubrovnik are the ones that I have from House of Staunton that come with this darker green. I think Staunton Castle sometimes also puts darker green on theirs. It's nice to see that. It's an attention to detail. I would prefer that, you know, more wooden chess sets have this type of felt because it's a little bit more luxury. However, it frays a little bit more. So when you play and you're looking at it really, really close, you'll see that you'll get a lot of hairs that are sticking up from this one just because over time when you play with this, the hairs will sort of come apart a little bit. It's not really all that big of a deal, but it's this sort of a slightly less expensive felt stays together a little bit more because, like I said, it's more of like a densely packed material as opposed to this is kind of a little bit more naturally made. So not much difference, but if I see a darker green one like this, sometimes I know that it's a little bit more of an expensive chess set, okay? So there you have it. Now, some chess pieces will have no felt at all. For example, this silicone chess set right over here, it has no felt. And one of the reasons why it doesn't have felt is, well, if it had felt, you would have been able to slide the chess set probably. However, the chess pieces here, they bend, and the underside bends too. So if you put glue down here and you put a piece of felt, then probably the bending property of this chess set is going to dislodge the glue. So I guess it's not practical to put felt on the silicone chess pieces. And also considering that they're like $6 for a set, probably for cost effectiveness, they don't even consider putting felt on them. But you cannot readily slide a silicone chess set. It really doesn't slide. It's not a really good chess set to slide. If you're purchasing one of these sets, you're probably purchasing it either for kids or you have some kind of a reason to purchase a silicone set other than a plastic set. So you'd probably be well with also purchasing some kind of a roll-up board and just playing this particular chess set. You know, you pick it up and you put the piece down. So not the best chess set. Silicone's kind of, you know, unique, but as far as its properties, I think that I've talked about a silicone chess set before. I think it's, like I said, it has its purpose in certain situations, but for regular play, you'd probably be better off with just buying like a plastic chess set that has some kind of felt because it does feel a little bit more normal. So, having set that aside, when we talk about plastic chess sets, not all plastic chess sets will have the same type of felt. A lot of times people assume that felt is kind of standard, but it's actually different in different types of chess sets. In this case right over here, we see another green felt that's a little bit thinner than what we've seen with the standard. A little bit thinner, and on the sides here, they didn't really pull the felt all the way to the borders. I would have preferred that they would have pulled the felt all the way. It really won't make a difference here because the felt's thick enough to where if you're playing, you're fine. But if this felt was a little bit thinner, what would happen is, I'll show you guys this chess set right over here, has this sort of a paper-like felt. Now this felt is, I'm not happy with this felt. I've probably expressed that I'm not really happy with this. I don't really like it. I think that all felt should be like this or like this. I don't like this felt a whole lot because what happens is not only is the felt thin, but also the borders are exposed, just like in this one here. And what happens is because of the thinness, the borders will actually hit your board. So when you're playing, it's a lot more loud than a felted one. It's hard to tell, but it is, and it's sort of because it's so thin, it hits directly with these borders, and at this rate, you might as well not have felt, because this is just very, very small amount of felt. I don't really like this. Now, another reason why felt is placed a lot of times too is that a lot of these chess sets, they'll have some kind of a weight, some kind of a little piece of metal underneath here that they place inside to weight the chess set so that it's nice and weighty. So it's not, because plastic ones, they're not super heavy, so you have to put some kind of a weight inside. And then once they put the weight inside, so that it's not just this weird looking piece of metal on the underside, they'll actually glue in type of felt on the top of it, and it will cover up that piece of metal. We see that in wooden chess sets too. So I'm okay with this, but I wish they would have pulled it all the way to the borders. And they could have made it as thick as this one, but they preferred to make it a little bit like less thick. So this would be felt that's present on a lot of plastic chess sets. But like I said, you have to really double check, because if you're not checking, you might end up getting something like this. And then if you're playing a plastic chess set on a wooden chessboard, you wouldn't necessarily like this as much, okay? Now, having said that about thin felt, here's a chestnut air piece and also chess-up piece. They both have this sort of a paper-like felt here on the underside. However, there's a couple of things that I want to say about these particular pieces. One is that these pieces are a lot lighter than some of the other plastic chess sets. They're a lot lighter. When you're holding them, you don't put as much force when you're placing these pieces down. And another thing is that some of these electronic chess pieces here, that on the inside, they have some kind of a module or some kind of a circuitry or a magnet or something that's present very close to the underside of this felt here, so that when you're playing, for example, on the chestnut air board, you don't want to necessarily have really thick felt, because then you might start to lose connection, because so that the little magnet or the little core module that's here needs to be pretty close to the board in order for there not to be any mistake of where it perceives, where it senses the piece to be. So therefore, I feel like they're doing the right thing in placing this type of felt here. Plus, for pieces this small, it's not really practical of having really, really thick felt like this, because the surface area here, the diameter of the base, is not super big. So if you put really, really thick, pillowy-like felt on the underside, what would happen is the piece would probably start to become unstable. So for the diameter of the base, this felt is satisfactory, and it ensures that your pieces are not unstable. When you have a really large diameter base, you could have a slightly softer felt, so that way you really don't feel any instability or anything like that. So the electronic chess set's really the only place where I would be perfectly fine seeing this paper-like felt, and it really doesn't bother me. On the plastic chess sets, I don't necessarily like it, okay? We kind of see the same type of thing here. So this is the DGT plastic chess set. I've done a video on the DGT e-board recently. The underside felt is not the same thread-like felt that you see here. It's more of like a foamy, like a densely packed foam type of felt. It's black in color. It's kind of hard to see, but it still provides you with the ability to have a really nice, good cushion. But it is not the same sort of a thread-like felt that we see here, so therefore it will not fray. There will be no hairs on it. It's different. They sort of found a perfect medium because the piece itself is relatively big, and so they can get away with having a little bit thicker padding here, and therefore it still works out fine. I'm guessing that even with this 1 millimeter thickness here, they're still okay with being able to sense the board just fine. Okay, now although I don't have the high polymer acrylic with me right now, it's in storage. The high polymer acrylic chess set, you can go back to when I did the review video of that particular chess set. It does have some kind of a leather-like material, leather-like felt that seemed to be fine for the most part. It's I talked a little bit about its ability to slide is not as great as regular felt, but it still slides okay. I wanted to touch base on that, even though I can't really necessarily show you. But like I said, if you want to go check that out, you'll be able to know what I'm talking about. So that's another type of felt, some kind of a leather-like, or a combination of some kind of a leather with maybe a little bit of rubber. Can make a relatively okay felt, but you know, it's not your original felt like this, but it's still all right. Now, some felt can come in different colors. This felt here, this is the Millennium King Performance chess set. Right over here, there's this sort of a thick, but not super thick. Once again, it's kind of the same foam type of a thick. It's not that ropey, and it feels okay. It feels velvety. This one feels a little bit more foam-like. This one is velvety. It's okay. I don't think there's really any core modules on the underside of this. It's just kind of, I wanted to show you this because it looks a little bit different because it's a dark red instead of our usual green. But as we've seen in the video on the King Performance chess set, your actual ability to sense the piece comes from you pressing into the board physically, so therefore you don't necessarily need to have too thin of a felt because it's not really sensing anything within the piece itself. So that's kind of that. Here's another example. This is the Droiki chess set that I've had personally made by William Bill Droiki. So thank you so much once again for making this chess set for me. But yeah, this is a really kind of a more or less standard type of felt that I would prefer to see on plastic chess sets. It's a little bit more packed than I would like to see, but it's still good. Quality-wise, I'd probably say that it's a little bit lower quality than this one that I showed you guys first, but it's still pretty good overall. I would say that if plastic chess sets had this type of felt, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Some chess sets will, like for example, this 1852 Paulson that I already touched base on. The Kings, because this is a Camerata collection, the Kings will actually come with this non-felted. Although like all the other pieces will come with felt, the Kings of that set will come with this sort of it's kind of like a combination of hard leather with it's basically really hard material that has the Camerata collection signature and everything. Looks kind of cool, but to be honest with you, if these Kings here had just the normal felt, I would probably give a little bit more of a preference to that. I would, you know, this is nice, I guess, because it makes this set special. But as far as sliding, you see that? It kind of scratches the board up a little bit. It's not that bad. It's just, I would have preferred all the chess pieces to be normally felted. Also, when you put it down, this is more muffled. This feels better. This feels like they just kind of short-handed you a little bit. They forgot to put felt on here. It's not like that, but it's still I don't know. So sometimes you'll get this sort of a leather or some kind of like, it's almost like a leather / hard rubber. So yeah, mixed feelings about that one. But here's the thing though, like a lot of chess sets, a lot of plastic chess sets out there, if you're not being careful, for example, all these here will be like this. They'll be felted like this. And this is not really good felt in my opinion. It's just sort of like piece of paper that's sort of glued on there, almost like a sticker. Yeah, so not the best type of felt, honestly. I think that you just gotta be careful. If you're playing on a roll-up board, like I said, you might be okay with this type of felt. And quite honestly, it's about the fact that these plastic chess sets are probably intended more or less to be played on some kind of a roll-up board, so really it wouldn't matter a whole lot. I mean, if you have a really expensive wooden board, you may or may not necessarily be playing with these plastic chess sets. However, I want to give you, here's also the, this was the Marshall, I believe, Analysis chess set too. It's a slightly smaller chess set, and it also came with this sort of a thin felt here. But I oftentimes find these on plastic chess sets, this type of felt here. My suggestion is if you're looking for a good plastic chess set out there, be sure to head over and check out my video on that quad-weighted plastic chess set. I think it was one of my initial videos, probably one of my first like 20 videos or so. I think it was one of the videos that said what's in your chess bag. It had that image. That one had great felt. I remember even up to this day, and that was one of the chess sets that I gave away to a friend of mine because I felt like that was one of my best plastic chess sets. It had great felt. It was a heavy piece, heavy set overall. I think it retailed for approximately $60 or so, but it was well worth it as far as the quality of a plastic chess set. That one was really quite nicely done. Let me just zoom in because I was editing this video partly when my camera died, and then I just want to kind of once again show you all the different felts here a little bit up close so that you guys can see them in a little bit of a finer detail. This is the very first chess set that I showed you guys. This is the Austrian Coffee House felt here. Sort of what you can see as far as the threading of it. And then hopefully if I can show you by comparison, I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to really gain an appreciation of the different properties of the felt. This is the Paulson. Maybe, like I said, it's more of something you can tell a little bit better when you're in the room. But that's that. And then as we've seen, this is the same Paulson Camerata collection. This is that rubbery hard one, so not the best one, but underside of silicone, nothing. This is the DGT right over here. This is the foam like. Okay. And then you get something like this too, which is for a lot of the plastic chess sets, you can almost like poke it with if you take a tip of a pen, you can just poke right through it. So it's really almost paper thin, and it's so thin, in fact, if you press down into it, you can probably like poke right through it. See? It's very thin. Well, as usual, thank you for dropping by. This was my attempt to make a relatively short video. Hopefully I've succeeded somewhat. I know people have places to go and things to do, so but if you did find this video helpful, let me know in the comments below what you think about felt in general, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye bye.